Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Night Rotor Talk Live, Season 2, Episode 13. Special guest, Rick Smith from Drone Valley. Rick will be joining us here momentarily, but I thought I'd want to check in and welcome everybody. Steve Carpenter, Peter's here. Bill Thomas is here. Drone Master is here. Floyd Motes is here. Thank you all for showing up tonight. We have a great show. It's always a treat to talk to Rick. I absolutely love. He's one of my favorite people on YouTube regarding drones. Absolutely, I've met him, met him several times. It's just been, he's just absolutely fantastic to talk to. So we'll be getting to that. We got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. Wow, the news is flying fast and furious as far as that's concerned. Almi Sam, welcome. Thanks for joining tonight. So yeah, it's gonna be great. I got some things coming up I'd like to talk about. I'm going to be continuing my how to start a YouTube channel series. That's going to be continuing, I believe, tomorrow. Mike, the Drone Ranger, welcome. Thanks for showing up tonight. Going to be continuing that. It's going to be a multi-part series. I think it's going to be at least 5 parts. So, and you're going to be getting a healthy dose of that this weekend. Brent Nunley, welcome. Thanks for joining. You'll be getting a healthy dose of that. And I hope you guys enjoy that because it's a little different. It's something that normally, we're drone focused on this channel, which I am. And I'm kind of doing it from a drone slant, but it's something that, if you want to run a sewing channel or a cooking channel, these are basics as far as getting a channel set up and running. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I think that the first one's been very well received. So we'll look forward to some more of those. Got those coming up. Also got Phantom 4 Pro V2.0 versus Mavic 2 videos coming up. You guys will be in for an absolute total treat with that. It's hard. Who do I choose? The Mavic 2 or the Phantom 4 Pro V2.0? It's fantastic. One of the first ones I'm going to do is an OcuSync 2.0 test, and I think you guys will like that. I came up with a good idea to test that. Eli, welcome. Thanks for joining tonight. So that's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to that. And like I can't say enough nice things about that drone. That's absolutely fantastic. Wanted to let you guys know it's real interesting. Every time I'm driving by work this week, we have what's called Drone Shots. Welcome. Thanks for showing up tonight. Sun and Fun. Now, Sun and Fun is, I think, probably the second largest air show in the United States, or one of the largest ones next to Oshkosh. This is a huge event. It's actually international too. Tim Dow, welcome. Borders Drone Seekers, thank you for showing up tonight. Lloyd Mendenhall, thank you for joining tonight. And it's actually fun. Well, as I was driving home, because I drive by the airport where I work over in Lakeland, Florida, I saw the Blue Angels up there, and they were rocking and rolling, and I can't believe how close they were, one on top of the other. So, you probably saw my latest video. Kevin Kuntz, aerial photography, welcome. David Ma, welcome. Thanks for joining tonight. You probably saw that I was on Canadian Drone Hub this past weekend on Saturday with Roger and Val, and I saw Hugh was on there. Had a wonderful time. I'm telling you guys, they're on every day, and I don't get the opportunity during the week because I'm doing the 9 to 5 thing. But I'm gonna try to show. I showed up the past 2 Saturdays. I think I'm gonna get up. When I get up, they're usually on. So and it was wonderful of them to have me on. Now I just did a video on what I think DJI is going to be coming out with, and here is Rick.
Hey, Bill.
Rick, welcome. How are you this evening?
I'm doing, man. How you doing?
I'm suffering in this 80-degree weather down here. So
I got to tell you, you're killing me because you're cutting into my flying time with daylight savings, extending my flying day. I had to rush home from a beautiful beach I was on.
Oh no! Well, you come down here. I'll give you a very beautiful beach down here. So.
All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
How have you been?
I'm doing well. Things are good. Very busy, but good.
Well, that's absolutely good. Got a boatload to talk about. I want to talk about a lot of things. I want to talk about, I know you just came out with a series on your 3 favorite drones under $100, which I really like. Also want to talk about your new drone flyer series that you've come out with, which is fantastic. I know you've done a podcast. We're going to talk about that. But the 999,999 pound elephant in the room is everybody's been talking about, you know, this April 23rd DJI event, you know, and it's just one of those things. Now, you may be under an NDA, so you might not be able to tell us anything. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Oh, interesting question. Well, I haven't heard anything about the April 23rd date, to be honest. I'm being a little glib here, but I can say Scout's honor, I think it's this hand, right? Scout's honor.
Yeah.
That at this point, I don't have any definitive information about any release date, any new products, any upcoming things from DJI. And that's as honest as I can be about it. I have absolutely no definitive information about any release date or any products coming. Having said that, any flyer who's worth his salt knows that the prime time for quads to be released is February, March, April, in time for summer. So it would stand to reason that with DJI having as broad a portfolio as they do of both products that fly and filming equipment and all the other cool stuff they build, that they probably have something in the pipeline that'll show up sometime before it gets really hot here in New Jersey. And that's all I can say.
Well, you know, that's probably, I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking too. And, you know, it's, you know, just stuff just comes out in volumes at times. It just seems, and you try to disseminate this stuff, and, you know, and I try to do that, and I try to, it's like going out and beyond our property, we have some tall grass over there, wild grass and everything. It's like trying to cut through that. It's just sifting through a big mess of things. It's just crazy.
I mean, to prove that I'm not really in on anything yet, we can talk hypotheticals if you'd like, because I think that's fair.
Okay. You know, one of the things, I was on Canadian Drone Hub. Now, I don't know if you've seen them or been around them.
No, I haven't.
They are a fantastic group of people. Roger runs this group. They're on every day for about 3 or 4 hours. And Val runs it with him too. I was on last Saturday morning, and let me tell you, Rick, it is a wonderful drone community. You know, they accept everybody there. You know, if you talk about drones, it doesn't matter religion, race, creed, national origin, it doesn't matter. You talk about drones, you're welcome there, and that's and they've always welcomed me. In fact, we had Roger on last Wednesday on Coast to Coast Drones with Bill Thomas, and that was a great time. But what we talked about was, you know, in a hypothetical type of scenario, that I thought that what DJI would be coming out with now would be a Spark 2. And the reasons I thought that they would be coming out with a Spark 2, the number one was, you know, the Hubsan Zeno has been out, and the Xiaomi Z8, you know, the Fimi, excuse me, Z8 is coming out. And, you know, it's cutting into that market. And I know Bill Thomas and I and Ron Braun, we've been in agreement about this since day one. We really think that this new hypothetical drone that's coming out is going to be a Spark.
Yeah, so let's call it Project X, because we don't really know if there's anything coming. It could just be the geniuses at DJI sort of stoking the flames to keep people excited about it. But let's pretend they're going to come out with a drone. If we think about this logically, they've got really 4 categories of drones that they sell today. They've got the high end with the Inspire. They have the Phantom line, which is their sort of prosumer, high end of the prosumer line. They've had the Mavic line, which includes the Mavic Pro, Mavic Pro 2, or Mavic 2 Pro, Mavic Air. And then they've got the Spark. And actually, there's a 5th category if you count the Rise Tello, which they're going for that sub $100 category. I think the Tello is due for an update, but that'll be a Rise product probably. I think the Spark is definitely due for an update. I think the Mavic product line with the new Mavic 2 that came out, and the Mavic Air only being a year old, I think both of those are spectacular quads. I fly both of them pretty much every week. I've got both of them in the air someplace, and I love them for different reasons. I always say I love all my children equally. They're all special in their own way. But I think that the Phantom line, since the Phantom 4, and I know you fly the Phantom 4 Pro 2, Phantom 4 Pro V2, I fly it as well. That's kind of the end of the Phantom 4 line. They can't really do much more. The RTK came out, so that made it even cooler for surveying. But I think if they're going to come out with a product, I agree 100% with you. It's going to be a Spark product or something in that Phantom line. And I know there are a lot of rumors out there that, and you got in trouble for the Phantom being dead. I don't believe it's dead. I think that platform has still got a lot of wide acceptance. It's not as portable as the Mavic 2. I mean, the Mavic 2 I have it. I must sound like a mental patient, but I have it with me here. I love. I was just flying it. That's why. But I love that quad. I think that quad to me does 99%. I'm not big on percentages, but 99% of what I need to do with a quad with the 1-inch sensor. So, what would they have to do to seduce me for a new Phantom product? What would it take to get me into a Phantom product? The Spark I get. Like, if I know you guys have talked about it a lot, but if they update the Spark and give me a 4K camera, better yet, if they make it folding, that's an interesting product to me, especially if the price point is right. So there, I'd be interested. The Phantom, I don't know. I mean, what could they do? They could improve the frame maybe to make it folding, but then it's really a Mavic style product. Maybe they've got changeable lenses. That's a good thing. I would rather see a changeable camera, make it extensible like they did with the Enterprise to a certain extent, and allow me to pop on an infrared or, a FLIR type product and maybe a zoom lens on one. I mean, the lenses are great, but it's not quite what I'm looking for there. So they could surprise us, and it may not even be a quad. It might be, I've said for years, I don't know why they're not going after the submersible market. I work with PowerVision. I work with Chasing Innovation and a lot of companies in that space. I think that market's ripe, for people to have a submersible that goes underwater. So it could be any of that stuff.
Well, here I'm just going to welcome a few people. Artco is here. Art, welcome here. Whizbang99, Lon's here. Rick Halber. Thank you all guys for showing up. Alec Killen is here. One of the things that Bill Thomas brought up and was real interesting. I know DJI has been into these robotics, the land type vehicles too, and he and I had a little talk about that it could actually be one of these type of things.
Yeah, I kind of speculated that when they came out with the Mavic 2, because they've had a patent for a while. I forget the name of it. It's Robo something or other, but it's a terrestrial vehicle that was actually sold in Europe, and I think it was sold in Asia, but never released in the States as far as I know. Kind of a cool product if you're a commercial film maker, if you're a director and you need to get that fast action shot. But I don't know if it makes a lot of sense now that they've got drones to the point of sophistication where I can fly a drone in a clear space 4 feet off the ground and get the same shot that's smoother. So I would wonder what the use case would be for that specifically. Although it's something they've patented and trademarked, and I've talked about it on the channel before. It'd be kind of cool to see it, but I don't know.
And talking about a hypothetical Spark, let's say, I know some of the big talk, and I know up in Canada, they're talking that, do you think it might come under the 250 gram rule? And, and I said, that's an interesting point. But, one of the things that I think a lot of people would want with a new Spark or a Spark 2 or a Spark X is more runtime, because that's the thing that probably more than anything, more than the lack of a 4K camera, probably frustrated me more, was I'm getting a great shot right now. Oops, I'm down to 25% battery. I got to come back.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think you're fighting the laws of physics there. I mean, the lithium polymer technology, which is the driving force behind how much energy you can pack, the energy density into a battery of a physical size, hasn't really matured much. And I did a clip on this in the channel talking about it. The professor that actually invented the LiPo technology, believe it or not, his name is Goodnow, I think it is, Professor Goodnow. And he's in his late 70s, early 80s, and he's been working in the last 5 years on a brand new type of polymer battery that doesn't use a flexible polymer like an aggregate. It actually uses glass, which he claims will be 10x the power density and about half the weight and about half the recharge time. And they're close to commercializing that, but I'm getting a little adrift here. But what I'm getting at is there's nothing DJI can do to add magic to what a LiPo cell can put out. So you want to fly longer, it's got to be a bigger cell, it's got to be heavier. Then there's the distractions of, if it's heavier, I'm not going to get as much flight time. So you're kind of chasing your tail in some respects. And I think what they've done up till now, even with the Spark, if I'm going to argue in favor of it, is they've done a great job of balancing a good amount of flight time with the right amount of weight for the battery to give you a pleasurable experience, but not making it too heavy. Because there's a law of diminishing returns that kicks in after a while where, yeah, you can pack a lot more energy density into the battery, but the cost in energy terms of lifting that takes away the benefit of having that extra capacity in the battery. So I agree with you. I think it's going to be longer. I wouldn't be surprised. And again, hypothetically, and I don't know anything if DJ ever watches this, if they come out with the Spark X, if it's going to fly, I get 20 minutes out of that, 25 minutes out of that. I mean, that's pretty cool. And if I can fold that, put it in my pocket or put it in my suitcase, and it's got a 4K camera, that's what I need. I mean, that's a threat to the Mavic Air at that point. Right?
Yeah, and that's
so cool.
one of the things that I want to go to the Phantom line and talk about that for a second. And I know I was on and I talked to Romeo and he came up with his answer, but I'm like you. I kind of agree with you. I majored in business besides IT, and one of the things that in our senior business year we had to do a use case study, an actual real world study, and you had to name your product. And a lot of money gets sunk into naming products, Rick. And when you hear the name Phantom, instantly you have that image in your mind. It's an iconic image. It's something that you think of instantly. So I agree with you. I don't think that the name is going anywhere. However, I think we're going to see a totally new kind of platform. I think we'll see something probably, along the lines of having retractable gear. I think it'll also be foldable. I think we'll have different camera options on it too. And everybody's going to do a big gulp when DJI comes out and announces it's, starting at $1,999,
Yeah, I agree with you, Bill. And I think a couple things real quick. I think number one, you're right. The market awareness of Phantom, which is really what gave the company its legs initially. Mavic was kind of a stretch for them because it was an entirely new class. That consumer awareness, the fact that customers understand what it is when they hear the name, costs you tons of money to get that out in the market space. And that's not something you throw away. That's a Kleenex or a Band-Aids or a Pepsi. Like, that brand name means something to people. So Phantom is something that's well established in the marketplace. I don't think it's going anywhere. And I'll make the prediction tonight. And again, I don't know this to be a fact, but there's going to be another Phantom. And I don't know what Romeo said. I heard he may have said, no, they're dead. I don't believe that for a second. They're not going to throw away that Phantom name. I also agree with you that it's probably going to be a different airframe form factor than what we've seen up until now. I'm not so much enchanted with the legs popping up out of the way, because if you've ever flown the Inspire, I don't know if you've had a chance to fly that bird.
Yeah, I have.
A lot. You can't really control that bird and control the camera adequately with one flyer. You need a second person where I'm flying it to get the shot, and you're running the camera to get that actual, lensing and follow effect. So it sounds cool, but when you actually get it up in the air, it's very difficult to control the flight characteristics as well as the camera characteristics. So it's interesting, but it's not that interesting. For me, and I've said this for years now, what would really kill it for me in the Phantom space is if they made an extensible platform. Because if I'm DJI and I release it where I've got somewhat of a standard interface connecting to it, whether they're using USB-C or some other interface that's standard, I make that extensible, publish the API, and then all these nerds in California, myself being one of them, come out of the woodwork building attachments that I can snap onto the bottom of that drone. I've got a complete food chain of purchase from a consumer for the next 2 or 3 years. Not only the stuff I build, but the stuff the developers put on. So I think that's where they should be. If I were in charge of DJI, if they're listening, that's where I'd go. It'd be a Phantom, it'd be an extensible platform.
Well, it's interesting, you brought up the Mavic Air, and, one of the things that I think that they'll do is, I think they're not going to rewrite the book necessarily, but what I see happening is, like when we saw the Mavic Pro upgrade, when they upgraded to the new ESCs and the new quieter props, I see that happening very easily because, I know people, I have a friend over in the UK that sold his simply because it sounded like a hornet's nest. And it wakes everybody up in the neighborhood.
Yeah. And I agree. And I also think, I get into super nerd territory when I start talking like this, but what excites me so much about this technology, beyond the fact that I just love getting up in the air and looking down, is the amount of engineering resources it takes to make a small, subtle change. Like when they came out with the Platinum version of that, and all they did, people said, all they did was change the ESCs to sinusoidal ESCs and made the low noise blades. That engineering effort to do that took a laser focus from DJI to look at those ESCs and say, okay, we're using stepped ESCs up to this point with square wave driven signals. Now we're moving to sinusoidal. That's going to make it quieter. It's going to be more efficient. I'm going to get a couple extra minutes out of the battery. If we increase the prop pitch at the end with the tail ends, that's going to give us a little better efficiency for lift. All that stuff, as a consumer, I love it. And I love the fact that they backported it to my Mavic Pro. That they didn't say, no, this is a Platinum product. You got to buy this to use that new gear. They allow me to use it on the gear I've got. So those tiny little nuances, and I know on my channel I get grief for it all the time because I love talking about smart companies, and these guys are one of them. Those tiny little changes are a big, big deal. And I think you're right. I think from now on, you won't see a quad release from those guys. that doesn't have a sinusoidal ESC and probably no noise props.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I know a lot of people had talked about. Kind of want to sort of switch gears here a little bit.
Yep.
Your three best drones under $100. I absolutely love that because I think and I know what Kelly Shore's opinion is. It's the SEMA X5C. He said that's what you got to start out with.
Yep.
But I really like your choices here, and I think one of the things that I think a lot of people fail to recognize is, especially with the Rise Tello, I know they're coming out with there's new apps. And one of the big things is, and you brought it up, I don't know, I forget if it was in this video or another one, talked about how you really need a controller with the Rise Tello.
Yeah, you do and you don't. I mean, it's fun to fly with a phone, and that's the cheapest way to do it. So for $100, you can walk into a store tomorrow, buy a Rise Tello, take it home, and all your guys that are watching are drone guys already. But when I go to dinner parties, I'm the most obnoxious guy at the table because I won't shut up about drones. And when people say, well, I don't want to spend a lot of money, what should I get? Buy a Rise Tello. You take that home and you've got kids. The minute you put that thing up in the kitchen and you realize how stable it is, how cool and easy it is to fly from your phone and the tricks it can do, you're going to be hooked. So I agree with him that other quad is really seductive. The reason I picked these three were, number one, I fly them. Like I said in the clip, I fly them, I like them. I think they're durable, they're easy to charge. They've got standard charging, none of the shenanigans with these third-party chargers that have a wacky connection. But I love the programmability of it as well because, again, the fact that I can then take something that I can fly, write a little program, to have this autonomously, at the click of a return key, lift off the ground, fly 10 feet, land, spin around, do a little dance, is just super cool. So I like that. And just to carry that forward a little further, I think there's a gap that maybe DJI is going to address if they're going to release a product in spring. You'll probably see a couple of products coming. I wouldn't be shocked if we see something in the Phantom class, maybe something in the Spark class, or some hybrid of where the Spark and the Tello fit, because that engineering that went into the Tello isn't wasted. That was definitely an experiment to see where they're at. And there's a gap right there at $199, under 200. That I think if you left, it's going to sound terrible, but if you left the Spark and the Tello in a dark closet for a couple hours, it would pop out with the third quad that would have the combination of both those. They give birth to a quad that would have both their features. I think that's it, because there's still a threshold with consumers that hasn't been crossed yet. And all of us that fly, me in particular, are hoping that the public likes us better, and they don't like us all the time. They think, oh, drones, we hate them. The minute you get into a consumer's hand where the grandkids are flying it, grandpa's flying it, grandma's giving it a shot, that $199 mark where it's got some intelligence, where they can toss it in the air, do the selfies, do the shots, all the special shots we do, and the consumers are going to eat that up. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something, maybe it's a Tello 2 or it's this half a Spark. I don't know what they're going to call it, but I think there's something in that space that could definitely take off.
Yeah, that really does sound good. And I loved seeing your series because I think this is something that I think a lot of people have a tendency to neglect is, your new drone flyer guide, know your gear, know the rules, and know your location. And one of the things I just did, now I'm going to digress for a second. I know you have a podcast. Well, I started a podcast too. And I found the best place was the same as yours, was Podbean. I just absolutely loved how their delivery, where they're at, everything about it, and it's just a perfect fit. And I've got mine on both iTunes and on Google Play Store, and I'm having a blast with it. Absolutely, totally having a blast. But one of the things that I did was, I talked about, knowing your location and knowing where to be able to fly. And this is one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was, so often, we're all wound up with the app, whether it's AirMap or, whatever Kitty Hawk or whatever we're using, we're in a park in a county or a city, and a lot of times, we don't know, yeah, AirMap tells us we're good, whether, we're using Hobbyist or 107, but yep. Are we really good? Because there may be a local city or a county ordinance. And what I tell people to do, Rick, is I said, what the best suggestion that I have is get on a local Facebook group or Facebook page, because there's one here in the Tampa area. And what he does is, the admin of the group, he pins locations that are marked as good, safe, okay to fly.
Right.
What are your thoughts about that?
No, I agree with you. And that's the biggest challenge of this hobby we have, is that, and I've been frustrated. I did a clip I don't know, a couple of years ago when I first got into YouTube, and the title of the clip was "Where the hell can I fly my drone?" which was a bit aggressive, but I was frustrated because I'd done the research, gone to a local park, and it was like they descended on me, like the park rangers descended on me for flying my little quad. And I'm like, but I checked it and there's nothing. They go, well, in this ordinance buried in the bottom on page 7, you can't fly in the park. And I'm like, well, how can you have different rules than the Federal Aviation Administration, which has really got sovereignty over everything from the ground to the heavens, right? I mean, how do you guys supersede that? They're like, well, we passed that local ordinance. So I agree with you. It's frustrating, but it is getting better. I can tell you that. Like in New Jersey, and I've talked about it on the channel, we actually used a company, not a company, but an organization called NODE, N-O-D-E. And what they do is they're an advocacy group that has attorneys and they have people that have gone through this process before. I'm actually working on a clip talking about it, where you can engage them in your state. And the best way to put a bit of a defense up over those ridiculous no-fly zones. I mean, some of them are legitimate. If it's a prison, certainly. If it's Disney World, don't fly over Disney World, airports, all the stuff we know. But if it's a park, or in my case, it was Long Beach Island, which is an island off the coast of New Jersey, beautiful location. I grew up down there in the bay, clamming all my young days down there on the bay, crabbing and all that. I want to put a quad up and relive some of the places that I've visited when I was a kid. You can't fly there. We've decided nobody flies on the beach. And I'm like, it's September. It's me and 2 seagulls. Who am I hurting flying my drone on the beach? But you can't. So we got NODE involved in New Jersey, and NODE said, look, we're not going to argue with Long Beach Island. We're going to go to the state, and we're going to say to the state, to the governor's office, this is ridiculous. These are onerous rules that people are reacting, knee-jerk kind of things. If the Federal Aviation Administration says it's safe and they follow these rules, it should be safe. And lo and behold, the governor passed a bill that rescinded all the local bans. So in New Jersey, unless it's listed as an NFZ, an official NFZ by the FAA, you can fly anywhere you want. So, and I just had it happen 2 days ago where I was in a park near me and I'm flying, and then you get the tap on the shoulder. It's like, you got to land the quad. And first of all, that's a bad thing to do because the quad's up in the air, but I'll bring it down and have the conversation. They don't necessarily know because they're looking at the rules that were put in place 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So what I recommended, again, with the no location thing is I carry that ordinance with me, that state mandated rescinding of all those local bans, so that with that conversation, I said to him, look, just give me a second. I'll go to my car and get you the legislation. And I showed it to him. And right in there, it says that this supersedes all local and regional bans. He read that and said, all right, well, okay, don't fly today, but I'm going to look into this. Like he wanted to, verify it with his boss. So now what I've done is taken the extra step to say, can I meet with New Jersey Department of Forestry, and talk to them and let them know, Department of Fish and Wildlife, let them know to sort it out. But I agree with you. It's frustrating. I mean, it should be a simple process, but if you do your homework, you're going to have less problems. And I think that's a great idea, what they're doing there at that Facebook group.
And I like that, Rick. You just said a real key thing here. You do your homework, because a lot of times, we run, gun, go out, grab our bag, throw it in the car, and we're there, and the same thing. And then boom, you get that inevitable tap on the shoulder. And one of the things, and I've said this, and I know my viewers and subscribers know this, and I harp on this, if a law enforcement official asks you to stop flying, you don't argue. Number one, you don't argue. Okay,
you're not going to win that.
You're not exactly.
They don't know we're good, right?
Don't be like, oh, I got my 107, so I'm the king of the hill kind of. No, comply with what he says. Land your quad. And then talk right. Reasonably, and talk in a calm tone. No matter how he approaches you, talk calmly. And then, right. If you have to leave. That's the kind of thing.
I agree. And my recommendation, and I said it in the clip as well, is that if you're right, politely have the conversation. But in my mind, he's now interfering with my ability to fly that day. If it's a beautiful Saturday afternoon, I'm going to spend 5 or 10 minutes trying to educate him so I can put the quad back up. But if it turns out that I realize I'm not going to get anywhere today with this guy, I'm polite, say, look, you're misinformed. I'm going to come back and talk to your supervisor on a rainy day when I can't fly anyway. And I'll come back on a rainy day and we'll sort it out. But the worst thing you can do is get belligerent, because even though you may not be violating a statute by flying in that park, you can get aggressive. And there are statutes about being aggressive to a park official, right? And if he feels threatened because you're coming on too strong, things can turn pretty bad pretty quickly. So I'm always polite anyway. I'm not going to yell at somebody, and there's plenty of places to fly. So land the quad, drive 2 miles that direction, and put it back up again. Just have fun out there is all I say.
This is, I'm glad we touched on this, because I had an email from a subscriber today, and he's a photographer over in Hawaii, and sometimes he contracts his business out to CNN as far as disasters are concerned, and he uses a Mavic 2 Pro among his arsenal of photography devices. But one of the things that he said he's trying to do, and he contacted his U.S. senator from the state of Hawaii, is to get legislation passed so that handicapped people can be able to fly in national parks. As you know, that's like a humongous no-no.
Yeah.
And from what I heard when I talked, I have a friend out in California who's used to work for NBC Sports. He owns a helicopter. He flies. He probably has twice as many drones as both you and I combined. And he told me, he said, that's one of the things that really has absolutely frustrated him. What was hearing this stuff. He says it is so. He says you would have a better chance of walking on water with one hand than getting approved to fly in a national park. Well,
Yeah.
what this photographer in Hawaii said, what he wants is to be able to get legislation passed so that handicapped people who fly drones can be able to fly them in national parks. And I asked him, and he's heading over to Hong Kong for some business, but I'm going to try to get him on the show as well too, because I know Mike Roche, who's on the show tonight, he's handicapped, and we talked about, I know that one company, and I know they were out at CES.
Yeah, I met with him. I forget the name of the company, but I actually met the guy who invented it. He was a fighter pilot, I believe, for the Air Force for a bunch of years.
Yeah,
a really cool product. I think it's going to open up a lot of doors for people that are challenged that way, that need that kind of special controller. Look like a pretty cool product.
Well, I brought up the point, and I talked this over with Mike, is, they need to mount that on some type of a board or something, because, for example, I know two of mine subscribers, one of them doesn't have one of their limbs, and I forget which one. So, that's impossible for them. They need it mounted on a platform, on a board.
Right.
And this also kind of ties in with why I got so passionate about precision landing when we found out, early on about the Mavic 2. It's because of instances like this, where, it's impossible sometimes. They need, handicap flyers need it to land where it's supposed to land and take off, where it's supposed to take off, kind of a thing. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I thought that whole thing was real interesting. Now we're gonna switch gears from DJI and everything, and want to talk a little bit about Autel. Now, they just lost their lawsuit, or one of their lawsuits, to DJI, and I know you saw them out at CES. What was your take on Autel and everything that's going on with them, right?
Yeah. So Original Dobo is going to hate me for saying this, but I want to work with Autel. I've pleaded with them to get access to their tech, to talk to their engineers, to test their gear early, and I just can't get a response back from them. I mean, I even met with their head of marketing or head of product development for North America at the show. And if you watch the clip on the channel, I kind of always try to box them in at the end to say, and you're going to send me a test unit. And they go, oh, sure we are. Not that it's a contract or anything, but I love, trying to box them in. And I can't get them. They won't return emails. They won't return phone calls. I mean, it's like they're in a vacuum. So I was really hoping, and I still am, that they'll come out of that cloud with a product that looks cool. Because I thought the Evo, when I saw them last year, CES 2018 or 2017, whatever last year's was at CES, that blew me away. None of us saw that coming. We were all looking at, their previous quad, X Star. And when I saw that in the booth, I thought, oh man, this is something. This is going to be a competitor, because at the time the Mavic 2 wasn't out. It went nowhere. It came out with the 1/2 2.3 sensor. The 1-inch never came. And when I pressed them hard at the show, they didn't have any answers. And to be honest with you, Bill, I'm not trying to diminish the work involved, but moving from a 1/2.3 to a 1-inch sensor, it's not that big a deal. Okay, your center of balance is going to be off. You got to adjust some of your telemetrics, but it's not like they're reinventing the wheel. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know whether it's a funding issue, or maybe they've got something really big they're coming out with that they're going to launch. I did like their flight deck. I thought that was a really clever device that allowed you to pick up on the signal and broadcast it to a TV. That's something I think DJI should come out with. I'd love to see that for OcuSync too, where you buy this little box that you can run off of a battery bank, and then you can have somebody else watch your footage live from the quad. But I'm disappointed in them. I really am. And I felt the same when the Karma went away. I know I get a lot of grief for talking about the GoPro Karma product, but I feel like any company that enters the drone market that's a serious threat to the preeminent company, which we know is DJI at this point. Not that I want DJI not to win, but I love competition because it drives engineering. It drives the prices down. It gives us much more choice across all the platforms that are out there. So when the Karma went away, that hurt because that was an American company that would have really helped move the legislation forward in a good way, and it would have probably helped us with driving innovation. I thought Autel was going to step up. Unique's a whole different conversation than Autel, but I really was looking for Autel to step up, and that's why I'm so excited about the X Dynamics product. Not that I want to plug those guys, but I feel like X Dynamics is a company that's really looking at the market, saying we're flyers. We're going to build a quad that flyers want to fly, a quad that we'd be proud of. And they're not looking at DJI or Autel. They could care less what's being released. They're just building it for other flyers. And I think competition's good. So I was disappointed and still am that Autel hasn't done a better job of at least releasing a 1-inch sensor for the Autel Evo. That would have been at least a start.
Well, I could have sworn that they were gonna do something, and then when their big thing was they announced their charger and then that hub, I was like scratching my head. And then the other thing is they weren't available yet. They were still, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they just came out with one of them right now. And I mean,
the charger, but not the flight deck's not available yet.
It's not available yet.
I got an email yesterday saying, dude, what's going on? Like, I'll pay retail for it. Get me one of those things to test. Not even a response back. So I don't know what's going on.
Here's the other thing. I talked to Kelly Shores when I had him on, and he said the same thing, because he had actually he had tried to get with Autel. And Autel did not, like you, they don't answer emails, they don't respond back. It's just, it scratches my head, Rick, because everybody wants them to succeed, okay? And I understand that. And I will say, from my experience, I had an X-Star Premium, and I love the hardware. At that time, the software was the Achilles heel. And then, I think they got up to speed with the Evo. I think they're doing a much better job. They're responding back better with this, but they got to get on track with. They got to tie in, and I know they're not as big as DJI, and they don't have the manpower, the resources.
You don't need to be an 800-pound gorilla. I mean, if you build a product people like, they're going to buy it. And that Evo, I fly it. I have it. I was flying it 2 days ago. I was flying it on Sunday, a day ago. I'm losing track. But anyway, I was flying it a day ago, and I like it. I mean, the quality of the image is great. I like the crash avoidance on it. It's quieter, I think, a little bit than the Mavic 2 when I put them side by side. So it's a great product. And I was trying to, off camera, I was trying to really get across to them, like, what an opportunity they have right now, because this market is exploding. And every day new flyers are looking for alternatives, maybe to a DJI product, or at least to have a choice. I mean, they had that, not to beat them up too bad, but they had the Evo at the show, not this year, but last year, in the booth with a 1-inch sensor on it, and another model. They're both mock-ups with a 360-degree camera on it. So how do you have them as mock-ups and not have some engineering behind it ready to release them? It's frustrating, is all I can say. But it's a good quad for what it is. I just think they could do better.
Original Dobo's in the house, and I want to thank him for his contributing to the fun. Thank you very much, Ken. Appreciate that. I know
I did say I liked it, so don't beat me up there, Dobo. I said I liked it. I liked it a lot.
And happy anniversary to you, Ken. I know he just went out to Vegas with his wife to celebrate their, I think, 15th anniversary. So
very nice.
So kudos to you. That's great. And sorry about your plane trip back. It was a plane trip from Hades, I guess. So that's one of those things. All right, I want to kind of go back to I know the Osmo Pocket. All right, and I know you've had it, and I know you've used it a lot. I know they just came out with a firmware update today.
Yep.
What's your overall impressions at this point?
Yeah, I know. And it sounds like I'm excited about everything, but and again, from an engineer's perspective, the technology is what gets me every time, because I've worked in product development my entire career, 40 years at this point, where I've worked in the engineering labs where we've put stuff together as prototypes, brought it to market as a finished product. And I can tell you that getting consensus and funding and moving products through a production cycle is an impossibility for big companies. I've worked for HP, I've worked for Hitachi. So for them to come from a full-size Osmo that's this big down to that size with the amount of tech that's packed into it is mind-blowing to me. And I use it more than my DSLR. I mean, I bring the DSLR along a lot of times when I'm filming, but all my crane shots now, all my stabilized shots when I'm walking, I look like a knucklehead because I was out over the weekend. I have a hat that has a GoPro attachment, and I had the Osmo on that. And my wife was embarrassed to walk next to me. But what made it even worse is an hour later, the battery's going to die. So I've got now a battery pack with a cable to it I have my sweatshirt on in the hood of my sweatshirt. So I must have looked like a complete crazy guy out there, but I love that camera. I just think it's fantastic. And what drives me crazy, and I probably shouldn't say this because I get a lot of hate mail, but it drives me crazy when people will look at that and pick on it and say, it's kind of cool, but why didn't they do this? Or why didn't they do that? Why don't you just enjoy it for what it is? You know, just buy it and use it. If it doesn't fit your needs, don't buy it. But how do you pick on something that is that demonstrably better than anything that's been on the market up to that point? And that's just my take on it. I think it's fantastic. And I use GoPro. I got a GoPro Hero 7 downstairs, and I use that as well. But that Osmo it's unbelievably cool kit.
You know, and I want to thank Drone Worship for super chat as well too. You know, and I saw they just came out with a firmware update, and I wanted to ask you about that new attachment that they have for, because I know the number one thing, and I've seen it from everybody. You know, I know Original Dobo talked about it. I know Ash from Droning On talked about it. The sound, okay, and you know, I know that was kind of like, if I don't want to call it Achilles heel, but that's something that everybody says, you know, that was probably the number one area of improvement. Now, with that attachment, have you got the attachment and tried it, and what's your results with that?
Yeah, so I have all the accessories they've released at this point. I've got, and I've tested them and done clips on the channel about them. I think that was probably something they should have had at the point of launch. I know a lot of people get frustrated that the product came out and then the accessories come out later. But you have to remember, and I'm defending them again, I feel like all I'm doing is defending DJI tonight, but you have to remember that DJI is a multi-headed company. They've got a division that works on their Crystal Sky. They've got a division that works in their aeronautics. And there's actually, I think, 2 divisions. One works on the consumer products, one works on the Inspire. So that's why sometimes when a product like Crystal Sky comes out, the software is not quite the same. Or when the new Smart Controller came out, it supported the Mavic 2, but not the enterprise version, different team, right? So it takes time for that stuff to happen. What I'm getting far adrift here, but the accessory people that are put together the accessories for the Osmo, again, are a different team inside of DJI. So I think they launched the Hero 7 came out, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, stabilized footage. This is unbelievable. We got to get this. DJI saw that, and as they often do, they did it with the Mavic when the Karma hit. They had to push that Osmo out. That was a very rushed event, very last-minute invites, very small team, very small crowd. It was hard to get in there, and Billy Kyle was there. I really had to kind of muscle my way into that meeting. I don't think they were ready with the accessories to even be close to being launched, and they're slowly rolling them out. But I have to tell you, that audio accessory changes the game, because it takes that 3.5mm connection you use for your microphone and marries it perfectly with the USB-C connection into the Osmo. And if anybody out there has used the Hero products and you've tried to use their audio adapter, Bill, it's this big. I mean, it's physically gigantic. It's the size of a stick of butter almost. And it's just so clumsy to have that thing hanging off the camera. This thing's small, it's elegant, it does the job. And I have to be fair, it does different quality with different microphones. So it's important you pick the right kind of microphone to use with it. But I've been using it ever since I got it, and it really does improve the audio quality tremendously.
Now, I've got to ask you, you know, with the Osmo Pocket, you know, and I know I've seen some rigs advertised, you know, where they're set up and, you know, you can mount your smartphone of choice next to it and so forth. How do you use yours? Do you use yours like that, or do you just use it as it is?
So one of the problems with the Osmo, not problem, but one of the challenges is that there's a gigantic universe of 1 million accessories and mounts that are out there, from 3D printed ones to Chinese knockoff ones. And I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but of the official DJI accessories, and I don't know if Dobo would agree on this or not, but there's 4 accessories that are out. So we have the Wi-Fi base, we have the thumb wheel, we have the audio adapter, maybe there's 3 out. Of those 3, not as impressed with the thumb wheel. Now, some people love it. For me, I think it was expensive. I don't know if it necessarily makes sense for me, but the audio adapter, absolutely, and the Wi-Fi base, absolutely. As far as mountings go, there are 2 mounts that I use on a regular, well, 3 that I use on a regular basis. One is a hat mount. So I'm using a GoPro mount with the original adapter that's the 4th one. The adapter that they came out with the Osmo Pocket. I use that on my hat. I use that with a lot of my GoPro accessories. I have a selfie stick. We sell it on the channel, but I have a selfie stick that I can use it to extend it. And before the audio adapter came out, I have a cable that connects up to your phone, so you can hold your phone and actually use the selfie stick to get above a crowd or get close to something and use your phone as a monitor, which is pretty cool. I do use it a lot where it's connected to the phone, where it's plugged into the end of the phone. But again, the challenge there is you can't, heaven forbid, you try to leave the phone hang off the side of the Osmo, it's going flying. And the same will happen on the other side with the Osmo. It'll work its way loose. So there is an adapter that'll hold those 2 together. And I'm not pitching our store, but we sell that as well. But it holds them together. And then that gives you a nice little package for this. And I use that a lot when I'm doing important filming with it when I'm doing B-roll or I'm doing any kind of moves and pans, because I've got a beautiful little monitor there to see exactly how am I framing the shot, is there somebody in the background, all that stuff. So those are the three that I use more than the others. But there's a ton of other stuff out there. I mean, they're coming out with an underwater holder real soon. They're coming out with a carrying case that'll charge it. So there's a lot of accessories coming.
Well, I just saw recently that, and this was confirmed. I think it was. I might have seen it on Drone DJ, but DJI confirmed that they're not going to be at NAB this year, and that kind of comes as a bit of a surprise because I know the past several years they've been a mainstay there, and then they're going to be a no-show this year.
Yeah. I was surprised by that, but there are a lot of companies that aren't going this year as well. I'm actually not going to go to the show this year. I've gone the last couple of years, CES and NAB both, but this year I have conflicts with travel. But a lot of the big companies that I expected to be there, including DJI, won't be there. So that is interesting. And I don't know. I think that's probably because they launched the Osmo Pocket. There probably isn't something coming in the Ronin space. And maybe there's nothing for the commercial side, which is really what that show is all about. And those are expensive shows to go to. And DJI, just like a lot of the companies, they don't go there and go small. You're not going to see them on a little card table in the corner with 3 guys and some business cards. Like when they go, it's like they set up a miniature city. It's so big, their displays, and they bring everybody from the company. So it's got to be an expensive thing.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Phantom 4 Pro V2.0 or the Mavic 2 Pro, and why? I know that's like trying to choose whether you love your son or your daughter more.
It's Sophie's choice. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's Mavic 2 Pro.
Okay.
Mavic 2 Pro. And I'll say that 70% of the time, because there are times when I'm doing real estate or very serious windy days where I've got to get that exact shot, that somehow that Phantom 4 Pro V2, it's got the extra weight and ballast to it. It just gives me a smoother move. I know the footage is better on the V2 than it is on the Mavic 2, but to me, it's close enough where it's not that big a difference. But 70% of the time, that Mavic 2, it's with me everywhere, man. That is the perfect quad.
Well, and somebody asked me this that same question recently. It's like, trying to choose one of my 3 kids is my favorite. It's like, well, it depends on, my answer is always depends on what day you ask me. But,
yeah.
I have to say the Mavic 2 Pro. And for me, I have, you probably see, I have my office is not in the kitchen anymore. Okay.
Oh, great. Man, I saw it. Yeah, it looks wonderful.
Bedroom. And behind me, I have back there, I got a desk on purpose from Home Depot, and I call it the Flight Line. I actually got a nice big brochure, or a wall mount up there. It says, with my logo and Flight Line. And the reason I call it Flight Line is I have 2 landing pads that fit on that desk perfectly, but it's where both of my drones sit. The batteries are there, the charger's there. I mean, everything's all ready to go. And, even because, it's like that, I captured an incredible sunset. And the reason I was able to do that was I don't fold my Mavic 2 Pro up. Okay. When it's sitting at home, it's out. And all I got to do, slap the battery in, get my iPad, boom, everything's set up. It's ready to go. Yep. And one of the things, and that kind of leads me to my next question is about, I know people haven't really talked about a lot about it lately, is the Smart Controller. I've heard a lot of what you had to say, but I want to hear what your impressions are after having it for a period of time.
Yeah, so I'm actually doing an update clip, I think next week on it. I've got it on the schedule. It's a game changer. I mean, it's a mic drop moment in so many ways, because it's easy to set up a standard controller, pop your iPad 4 in the bottom, hook up the cable, and try and find a shady spot when you're outside to actually see what's going on. And that works great. I'm not saying you have to move to the Smart Controller, but that Smart Controller is a different experience completely. It's integrated, it's quick. The boot up time on it's less than 15 seconds. And I'm not rushing to get up in the air. Like I said in the channel, you want to make sure you've got the right clearance, where the tall things are, you're not going to be violating any kind of federal airspace. But the fact that I can get up quickly and not have to deal with, oh my gosh, I forgot a cable, or, oh, it's too sunny out, I can't see it, I got to put a clunky hood on the top of it. It's bright, it's crisp, the resolution is fantastic. I'm convinced I get a little bit of range out of it than I do in the standard controller, and that might just be me. But I love it. I think I like it even more now than when I got it. It's my go-to thing. It really is. And I have 3 cases I take, 2 cases. I take the drone in a small case like this. I take that's got the drone in it, and I take the Smart Controller in a case about the same size, and they're in my car. And if I find some beautiful field I want to film, and I'm driving to a friend's house or something, I'm going to be late because I'm pulling over and I'm going to fly until the battery's in. But that controller's, it's rock solid. I think they did a great job with it. I know there's a lot of controversy. I wish that they'd have been smarter and released it when they released the Mavic 2, because I think people would have loved to have had a choice to say, it's this much with the standard controller and this much more if you want the smart controller. It wasn't ready. And like I'd mentioned a few minutes ago, that's because that division that builds that is the same group that builds the Crystal Sky, and they're not as in sync as they need to be. So somebody's got to clunk some heads over there between those product teams.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you was, and bring up, one of the, and I get this question a lot, is, it is the perfect solution for the Mavic 2 Enterprise series, but yet they still haven't come out with an update for that, and it's like, that's frustrating because, and I know I've talked to Romeo a little bit about this, having that available for this on a moment's notice, seconds mean a life that could be saved. And, that's something, having that solution readily available, power on the drone, power on the smart controller, you're ready to go. I mean,
right.
There's no hooking cables up, anything, you're ready to go. And it's still not there yet. And I think that's really frustrating a lot of people right now.
So I'll issue a challenge to your subscribers and the people on the live chat. So I spent a lot of time talking to the engineers at DJI, and I'm lucky that they listen sometimes they don't. And I just had them send me an email with a questionnaire saying, now that you've had the smart controller for, I don't know, 4 months, whatever it is, number one, we'd like your impressions. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And specifically, what other quads would you like us to support? And then what other features would you like to see in it that aren't in it at present? So I responded, with mine. Of course, I wrote a book because I can't say anything short. I got to explain everything. But I sent those in. But I'll challenge you guys. I mean, if you want to send me an email, rick@dronevalley.com, or you want to just go on my channel, hit one of my clips and put some comments down there, I'm going to put another one through. And what I'll do is accumulate whatever you think, Bill, you and the subscribers think needs to be incorporated into that, because I know that engineering team is happy with the product they released, but their firmware updates that are coming, I think they're looking to expand what it can do. Now, it's not going to support OcuSync. It may support OcuSync 1. It's not going to support, I'm forgetting the other standard now.
Lightbridge.
Lightbridge. Not going to support Lightbridge because the receiver and transmitter aren't in there. But OcuSync 1, I'm thinking they could stretch it to be a Mavic product as well. I know it's going to support whatever comes next because it's going to be OcuSync 2. But if you guys have opinions, let me know, because I'll probably put that together maybe Friday or Saturday. So I'll collate everything you guys send me, and I'll send it back and say, this isn't just me talking, this is the field talking. These are people that buy your products that are really interested in you improving this. So
okay, guys, Rick has issued you, I don't necessarily call it a challenge, but email him. You have a smart controller and you've got something that you want to work with it, or just, a question about the software and everything. Email Rick, okay?
If you're pissed off too that you were going to buy it and you're like, I'm not going to buy that thing because it doesn't do X. Tell me that too, because I can say to them, if you did this, you'd sell more of them, right? Let's make
it's like, I know, because I directly asked them. I said, okay, guys, and I went out and I tweet DJI support. Now, a lot of people think I have favor with DJI. I'm like, you know what? I'm just a regular guy on YouTube, and I know how to contact them, okay? But I did ask DJI support. I said, so you can confirm that it will support all devices with OcuSync 2.0, including the Phantom 4 Pro V2.0, and they said yes. So
it can, but it doesn't. It can,
not yet. Not yet.
Yeah. I think that'll be easy, right? The V2.0 is easy. I'll tell you, I fly my Telo with it, and I control my Osmo with it, which sounds ridiculous to be using a $600 controller with a $99 drone, but the Wi-Fi is there, and you can load up the Telo application. You can side load it, and it works great. So for me, I got a little extra, and I'm working on the Mavic. I think I may figure that out too. So, but I think they need to do it officially through firmware. But I agree with you. The Enterprise should be the first one they add to it for sure.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I don't know if you know this or not, but on Wednesday nights, I'm on a show with Bill Thomas and Ron Brown. Ron has a great station and or a channel, and he really does a lot of testing on the Xeno. In fact, we jokingly refer to him as Xeno Nation. Ron's from New Jersey. I don't know. I think Margate, is that the name of the place?
Yeah, it's down south. Sure, I fly down there quite a bit.
He's moving there. He has a condo right now, and he and his wife are selling, and they're moving down there. And great guy, absolutely love him. And he and Bill Thomas and I were on Coast to Coast Drones, and this season Bill's calling this segment, calling it Bucket List Boys, because we're all I'm the senior bucket list boy, and Ron's a year behind me, and Bill's maybe a couple of years back. So we have just an absolute blast, and we talk about, one of the things that we do is we talk just about anything. I mean, we had Kelly on, and we kind of digressed a little bit and talked about our first rock concerts that we went to, and first cars that we had. I mean, it's some good discussion. We have a great time on there, and we would like to have you on. Now, I know there's a segment available on the last Wednesday of April, and it's on at 8:30 at Eastern. So, we would absolutely love having you on the show.
The 23rd of April, is it?
No, it'd be on the 24th, I think. So.
I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing you because
we'd love to have you on.
If it means anything, I don't know what that date's about, but I think I can do it. I'm happy to talk to you anytime you want to talk, man. I'm easy. I love drones. I love talking about them. So
I love, it's a lot. It's another evening away from my beloved, but she doesn't mind because it's with Ron and Bill are great. Ron and Bill are absolutely fantastic guys. Absolutely love hanging around them a lot. Bill lives up near Seattle. And a lot of times he's frustrated because, the weather isn't very cooperative for him to be able to fly like he wants to. But, sure. But we have a lot of fun. We get a lot of great people in, and the whole thing, and the whole thing about it is Bill calls this part of his channel, he calls it drone therapy. And, if you're having a bad day, you come home from work, get out one of your quads and fly it. Get out, one of the three that you reviewed, because you can fly them indoors, especially on a rainy day. It's a perfect release. And I'm the same way, Rick. When if I'm having a bad day, all I got to do is pop that battery in, turn things on, and then boom, we're ready to go as far as that's concerned. So
I totally agree. From my perspective, I've been flying a long time, and it hasn't gotten any better. It's an affliction that I've got. It's going to be there forever. And I tease my wife that I've always had a mistress of technology. Ever since I was a kid, I've been seduced by tech in general, and she's gotten used to my girlfriend. So we work out the schedule. She knows that when we drive to Florida to see my daughter, I'm going to stop 17 times. So she's figured out that if we leave at 1 a.m, there's less daylight for me to fly. So that's good for her. But I agree with you. I think it's therapy, and it's also whatever you can do to make life better. If you get outside and you have those butterflies in your stomach when you put that quad up, life's good. And we should all feel that way more often. So I'm always telling on the channel, don't worry about what you're buying. Is this one better? Is that one better? Just buy a quad you can afford, charge up the batteries, go outside and fly it, and just have fun.
Ken's like that too, Original Dobo. He says,
I love that guy.
the best quad that you have is the one that you're using right now. Or if you want to go and Rick, that's why I decided to go ahead and get the Phantom 4 Pro V2.0 was because I wanted it. I know DJI is probably coming out with something soon, but still I wanted it. And the one thing that really drew me to it was the OcuSync 2.0.
Right. I agree, and I also think, Bill, that you got to think about it in terms of technology, because even if there's some magical quad coming at the end of April, how much better is it really than the stuff's out today? Like if you buy a Mavic 2 today, Zoomer Pro, even a Mavic Pro, it's a wonderful quad. You can still get the Platinum. You're not going to see this new quad. What's it going to have? Lasers on it? Is it going to be invisible? I mean, what could it do that would be that much better? You'd be like, darn it, I should have waited. If you can afford it, get it, but don't wait. Get out there. Summer's a wasting, man.
Don't waste your time, with these kind of things, because life's too short, and I think I mean, we don't get to be. And by the way, a belated happy birthday. I know you just had a birthday.
Thanks. I'm going to live to 100. I'm not going anywhere. So
I'm not going. I keep saying the same thing, Rick. Absolutely.
You get those young guns like Billy Kyle and Original Dobo. It's got to be around a while.
So. Those guys will go forever. Okay, there's no off switch to either one of them. Okay, one of the things that I really liked about Canadian Drone Hub, and I like being about with Bill's show and everything. It's like, we need to focus and we need to unite, because in terms of being able to fly, and Bill's expressed this concern before too, is, I know you recently saw the article about UPS and, flying the medical supplies down in Wake Forest, which is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know, the 999-pound elephant in the room is Amazon, and you know, wanting to fly. I mean, they came out with that conceptual thing of that dirigible, you know, with drones coming out of it and dropping packages and things. And you know, and Bill's right. You know, I want to make sure, and this is something, you know, we need to stand united and not divided in making sure that, you know, our voice is heard, you know, because I still want to have 10 years from now, Rick, I still want to be flying quads. I still want to be getting my Mavic 16 up in the air. You know, I want to be able to enjoy that, you know.
I don't think that I wouldn't worry about it, Bill. I really feel like, and I have friends that work for UPS and Amazon and FedEx that are involved in their aeronautics programs that are sort of close to that technology. They're years away from that. And the technology is not there because they'll need some kind of integrated system for knowing where those are versus other planes and other drones. They're years off from that. So I wouldn't worry about it. But I agree with you 100%. And all I'll say is that guys like you, Dobo, Kyle, Heron, all those guys, even the guys that are subscribers to you and watching this broadcast, you guys are all ambassadors for the hobby. So when you put a clip up and you talk about how much fun you're having, how to fly responsibly, how interesting it is when you go to this location or that location, that's advocacy for the hobby. And the more you do that, people are going to stumble across those clips on YouTube and they're going to want a drone. They're going to go, man, that looks like a lot of fun. And boy, it is a safe thing to do. That turns public opinion. We can spend all day fighting court cases over rescinding bans and this thing should be changed. That's not where you need to be. You need to turn the public around. And the more they see us behaving responsibly and flying and having fun, that's a positive thing for all of us. And I would also recommend, if you're on YouTube and you stumble across the channel where somebody's doing something god awful and just dumb, let them know. Get on the comments and say, dude, don't fly that quad 7 miles over a beach. You're not supposed to be doing that. Don't launch your quad from the roof of a building, you know, and fly it over the top of a stadium. Don't be doing stuff like that because they need to feel pressure to sort of come into line with the way you should be flying. And I know I get grief all the time because I'm always advocating flying responsibly. And some people are like, the government doesn't have any control over what I do. You got to fly responsibly. But you guys are really in charge of that, Bill. And your channel is a great way to go. And when people ask me about quads, I'll point them at Billy, I'll point them at Dobo, I'll point them at you and say, just go watch a couple of clips and see how much fun these guys are having. Don't take it from me, right? I'm your friend, you know me, but listen to these other guys and see what they have to say. You're going to love this hobby.
Absolutely. So you know, and I think, you know, that's a good way to end the show tonight is, you know, we need to stay focused. And, you know, people like you who I look up to, I consider a mentor. Kelly Shores, I consider a mentor. You know, you guys have done it right since day one. You've started out right, and and I think the big thing that I really like about you, Rick, is humility. You don't, you know, you're not there to, you know, pat yourself on the back. Same with Kelly. You know, you guys are you're out there because you enjoy what you do. It's you're passionate about it. You know, and it's fun. You know, for me, you know, I was starting to get into ham radio when I came down into Florida, you know, and I've got my amateur extra and I'm, you know, and I'm certified to do just about anything with that. But you know what? I got the drone bug, and the drone bug has put my ham radio hobby way to the side right now. So, you know, hang on here a minute. I'm going to do some closings. And just hang on, and we'll talk after we close here. But I want to thank Rick for showing up tonight. And guys, make sure you smash that like button on the way out. Not for me, but for Rick. And if you haven't, if you've been sleeping in a cave for the last 100 years and you don't know Rick's channel, okay, I am going to post a link in the description for you guys. So go ahead and definitely subscribe to him. You guys had a great chat tonight. I watched the chat. It was fantastic. I want to thank those who contributed to the super chat tonight, Original Dobo and Drone Worship. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate that because those funds get pumped right back into the channel and help me to be able to do things and, you know, get equipment for the channel here. So I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. You guys were absolutely fantastic. And remember, it's a great day to fly. Take care. Till next time.